fun and informative. It's somewhat repetitive with the information that we're going to provide, and that's intentional so that way some of these ideas really get reinforced. You know what you're getting into if you decide to apply to compete in PICC 2019. So tonight we'll go over, I'm just going to provide a quick outline. First we'll talk about what the competition actually is, how it got started and what it's become. We'll also talk about why graduate students really should consider competing in this competition. Also discuss some of the nitty-gritty logistics of how this competition works and operates. Information on how you can participate. And then we'll have a really, I think, informative and valuable session that Justin will lead about what makes a successful team and what makes a successful case proposal as well. And so I think that's going to be really, really cool to see. And then we'll have be able to have time set aside at the end for questions that you may have for the people that are on the planning committee as well as for participants. So the Pittsburgh Innovation Case Competition is a nationwide competition. Actually, we're opening up to universities from all over the country. We already have interest from groups at Yale, Harvard, and Penn. So I expect that we'll have actually a very diverse set of teams participating. And it's open to any non-MBA graduate students or postdoctoral fellows in any discipline. We really have the vision of 4RS is really tied to this, as well as the Carnegie Mellon Graduate Consulting Club, which I'll mention briefly in a minute, are both tied to really enriching the experience of non-MBA graduate students, provide them the skills that could end up benefiting them if they want to pursue a career in industry or consulting. So I kind of just said this, but we're going to bring in anywhere between 12 and 20 teams. We haven't landed on a final number yet. And we're going to give them a problem to solve that's pertinent to actually current events and a business, certain business, I guess, question. And this allows them to not only showcase their analytical skill sets, but their problem-solving skills, professionalism, their ability to communicate effectively and clearly. PICC 2019 is actually a new rebranding of an existing competition. Some of you may recall the Pitt Health Innovation Case Competition. So we deleted the H this year after reviewing many different names after this collaboration. But we decided that to restart PHICC, now PICC, we would include Carnegie Mellon University a lot more intimately. So we partnered with a newer organization there, the Carnegie Mellon Graduate Consulting Club. You saw Justin and Stephen in the previous video. Those are two of the board members there. In order to plan all the logistics and the operations for this event. We think that the combined network and resources that 4RS and Carnegie Mellon's group bring to the table really are going to benefit the experience of those people that participate in it. It actually started, the first PHICC actually kind of kicked off 4RS starting as well. So it's definitely closely related to our own history. I want to emphasize though that excuse me, this is a very unique competition. There really aren't many case competitions across the country that are geared towards non-MBA graduate students. A lot of them are for people going through their MBA to kind of showcase their skills and what they're learning. But 4RS, CMGCC, and everyone that's involved with PICC, including the sponsors and the judges, really believe that PhD students have transferable skills that are valuable in the business world. Whether, again, that's their analytical skill set or other soft skills that they've developed, they might not even really fully appreciate. So we hope that the case competition is one way in which these students can start to appreciate that and refine those skills. So for a little more background, I want to provide some of the topics that were addressed in previous competitions. In 2014, they evaluated what to do with a license for diabetes curing medical device. The following year was focused more on the vaccine market. The year after that, I was looking at like wearable devices and fitness tracking. And then in 2017, it was focused on CRISPR-Cas9 and market strategies around that technology. And so that's actually the slides that Justin is going to present later are focused on that case and so you get to see a little bit about how his team solved that. And this year's topic will be released in October, so we're not disclosing that yet, so that way people that don't make it to the info sessions today are not at a disadvantage. So then the next section, I want to address why graduate students should participate in this event. I think it's a really important experience. But really quickly, I kind of wanted to back up and just talk about I guess a core principle behind this event. And you can see in the photograph here, hopefully you can discern that the logo of the PICC mirrors the three bridges downtown, the Three Sisters bridges. You have the Rachel Carson, the Roberto Clemente, and the Andy Warhol bridge. And that's intentional. When we first started this partnership back in April or May, Justin and I were discussing, other Justin from CMU, he and I were discussing kind of our vision for this effort, and we really liked the symbolism behind the bridges in Pittsburgh. Connecting not only our universities and our organizations together, but connecting PhD students and postdoctoral trainees with opportunities in non-traditional career paths that they might not otherwise have access to or have information about. And also, I think connecting, bringing this competition to the national sphere is connecting Pittsburgh and all the innovative stuff that's happening in our graduate schools with the national scene and entrepreneurship that's happening around the country. So I think it's really just something I wanted to put on your minds is what's behind this event. So to go back to why graduate students should participate, to be blunt, it's actually very challenging to get positions in academia these days. And this graph, I think, very clearly highlights that point. There's over tenfold higher degrees are awarded for PhDs than there are positions available in academia. And in fact, if you were to take all of the positions in academia that currently exist, it's about 100,000, and institutions around the US are giving out about 36,000 PhDs a year. So even if a third of professors decided to quit tomorrow, only then could everybody have a job in academics. And I don't think this is always fully appreciated when we're entering graduate school, but a lot of people become aware of this as they're partway through. And so 4RS, CMGCC, and PICC really want to equip people to make a transition out of the academic track if they want to, and that way they can enter different spheres that they may not have fully appreciated fit well with their skills and interests. And so with that, I think it is kind of apparent that anyone who's interested in an alternative career should definitely consider applying for PICC. It's going to be a great experience, and I'm going to talk more about some of the details around that, but I think that's one demographic. In addition, anyone that's interested in just building up their business acumen to learn a little bit about the analyses, about the topics that are addressed by consultants. Maybe that's because you're interested in one day starting your own company, you're interested in taking technology from your lab, or from your research, and using that to build out a company. That would be really interesting and cool. You'd be able to stay in academics, but you might want to be familiar with some of these business ideas. And also to network with a number of people that are influential within the entrepreneurship scene in Pittsburgh and in consulting. I'll talk about that as well. And if you like to win money, you should also participate. We'll talk about prize money for this event. I do want to make it explicitly, though, an explicit point that you don't have to transition out of academia for this to be a relevant competition for you. And in my discussions with a lot of early PIs, one of the things that has the steepest learning curve for them is how to effectively manage people and how to work in teams. A lot of times your PhD and postdoctoral studies are fairly independent. You may collaborate, but a lot of your work is you can get done on your time, or you can self-motivate to get things done. And it's a lot more challenging now when you're responsible for running a lab to know how to work with those different people. And I think this is one of the experiences that you have available to you where you can start to do that as a graduate student. So I think it's actually relevant for anyone for your future career paths. And in terms of soft skills that you develop, and communication, presentation skills, all of those would translate as well to presenting in conferences, or presenting posters as well. So regarding the experience that you'll get from PICC, you'll be able to, or you'll be required to break down and solve a business case, form a feasible plan in order to solve this real-world business problem, balance team strengths and individual strengths in order to devise a solution, and you'll be able to present your work in front of professional consultants and entrepreneurs. And lastly, we're going to be having a keynote speaker at this event. We're actually trying to track down a couple people right now and figure out if they're available. But I think it's going to be really exciting to have those individuals. They're most likely from the pool that we're working with. They're individuals who have managed and run startup companies and brought them to an exit, often a very lucrative exit. And so it'll be cool to hear their perspective on what graduate students could bring to the table as well. I think all of these things would be great in interviews as experiences that you were able to have and are unique for graduate students and postdocs. In terms of skills, I've addressed some of these, but you'll be honing your presentation skills. You'll be able to learn about different business analyses and refine kind of what you know about them, but also practice actually executing them. You'll be able to work through a challenging, multifaceted problem, and this will really highlight the skills that you bring to the table. And it's very evident, everyone who's here, whether you're a postdoc or a graduate student, has demonstrated that you have high ability to solve complex problems. So I think this is a novel way in which you can demonstrate that. You'll be kind of forced to think about how you communicate your message to the judges. And I think this is a valuable skill, again, going into many different fields. And then also doing some research and trying to figure out what information is credible, what information actually is on target for the question you're trying to answer, because there might be a lot of noise out there. So that's, again, another important skill for whatever you're doing. In terms of networking, I've listed up here everyone that we have committed so far to this event. So we have sponsorship from all of those listed on the right, including McKinsey and BCG. Both of those companies are also sending judges to this event, and they're very excited about it. They've also McKinsey has been very involved in prior years, and so they know the value of this competition and also the quality of the individuals who present at this competition. In addition to that, we have some more Pittsburgh local groups that are going to be there. Including BNY Mellon, Innovation Works is sponsored and has provided judges. And then various departments at Pitt have also supported this. So bioengineering, School of Medicine, and others, in fact. So we're really excited because I think there's a large group of support for this event that people are excited to see what graduate students can bring to the table. And lastly, the cash prize. So if none of that was convincing enough, I hope that the potential to win $4,000 might be appealing to you. And so here's the picture from 2017 with Justin grinning ear to ear for having won the $4,000 prize. There will also be a $2,000 prize for the runner-up. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about how the actual competition will run. So next week, also same time, but actually over at Tepper School of Business, we'll be hosting a workshop called What is a Case? You can register for that via Eventbrite again. You can find it on either 4RS's page or the PICC 2019 Facebook page, as well as our website. That's going to go more into the nitty-gritty of how you actually get started when you have a case prompt. What questions do you need to solve? How might you present that in a coherent, concise manner? We're accepting applications for teams and individuals until September 26th, and we'll have a 4-day turnaround on decisions for those that are accepted to the competition. The case will be released 1 week prior to the actual competition. So the competition is on October 26th. The case will be released on October 18th. Your compiled pitch is then due back on the evening of October 25th, so that way we can get them all organized and together. One thing to note is that you get the case on October 18th, which is a Friday, you have a 2-day window to submit questions to the organizing committee about the case. Again, it can vary, but the committee has the choice of what they will or won't answer. And any questions that the committee chooses to answer will be sent out to all the teams. So nobody gets kind of unfair access to our knowledge. For October 26th, every team will have a first round pitch. It'll be 15 minutes long, plus 5 minutes of question and answer from the judges. These will be happening in 4 concurrent sessions at the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And you'll have at least 3 judges per team. And that will be in the morning of the 26th. Then everyone will have a dedicated time for revisions based on the feedback that they received from the judges during their first round pitch. And after all of the first round pitches, after the revisions, we'll have lunch and we'll have our keynote speaker. The final round will be after that. The top 4 teams will present in that final round. And all of the judges will be present for evaluation of those team solutions. And then the champions will be decided after that based on all the input. We also have plans to have a networking happy hour after the fact, so that way you can talk with the judges in a kind of a constructive event setting, talk with other competitors that might be from the same university or different universities. I think this would be a really great opportunity if you're trying to use PICC to get a leg up in the job market. That networking happy hour is definitely something you want to maximize. Regarding how judging will go, we have a very detailed rubric for this, but to kind of simplify that a little bit, there are 4 key things that judges will be looking for. Clear comprehension of the key issues of the case, feasibility of your solution that you propose, quality of the recommendation. So again, you can have a very high quality recommendation that might not be feasible, or something that's feasible, but that might not be the best solution. And then, of course, your presentation and your communication skills. All right, so again, it's October 6th. Check-in will be in the morning around between 8 and 9, and then the networking happy hour will start at 4 p.m. So again, it's a full-day event, and we have a detailed schedule of that as well that will be shared with the community teams. The event is going to be hosted off campus for the first time, so it usually actually happens in this very room. This year, not only because of our collaboration, but in an effort to grow this competition and kind of establish it as independent from the universities, we're actually hosting it at the Pittsburgh Technology Council, which is located on the north side. Alloy 26 is also located in the same facility. If you've ever been on the north side and seen this huge building that has Nova Place on it in huge letters, that's the building. It used to be a PNC building. You have to kind of go all the way around the block, one direction around it. Anyway, there's parking available underneath that building, and PICC will compensate all parking costs for teams that attend. And what's kind of cool is, I mentioned the 3 bridges before, and this is right next to the 3 bridges that kind of inspired some of the symbolism behind this event. All right, so how can you participate? Well, again, any non-MBA graduate student or postdoctoral fellow is welcome to apply. We are going to have teams that are between 3 to 5 students or individuals, and you can register on our website, picc2019.com. The deadline again is September 26th, and we're going to be pretty strict about that so that we can evaluate all the teams that are interested and get decisions out in a timely manner for those that might decide to travel to Pittsburgh from other universities. There is a $25 registration fee. That only applies to teams that get selected. So if your team applies and we decide that maybe not this year, maybe next year, you would get refunded your $25. And I want to also, emphasize that if you have a team already, perfect, that's great. Apply as a team. If you don't yet have a team, there are a couple options for you. One is I would encourage you to talk to the people in this room, talk to the people that are at the What is a Case workshop next week, and see if there are other individuals that are also looking for a team, and try to self-assemble. if that's not something that you want to do, actually, you can apply as an individual. And so what we're going to do there is we're going to evaluate all the individual submissions that we get. We're going to, and then match individuals together as teams. Probably the individuals that kind of rank highest in our metrics will then be formed into teams. What's interesting and something that Justin revealed to me I didn't fully appreciate is in 2016, the winning team was individuals that had never met each other before the competition. So you're not at a disadvantage if you want to participate in this event, but don't yet have a group of colleagues or friends that are also interested. You have a good chance of also taking home the prize. So I think that's pretty exciting. Regarding team selection, here are some of the criteria that we'll be looking at in order to make those decisions. One of the biggest things is the diversity of backgrounds. We're really interested in teams that don't necessarily just pull all from the same department, pull all from the same program. We really want a kind of a mix. I think this is not only just for our own evaluation's sake, but I think that's a characteristic of highly successful and high-functioning teams in industry. So something that's certainly appreciated. We'll be looking at that as well. Community involvement and academic performance, as well as publications and awards won by individuals on the team. And then I think the thread running through all of this, and one of the biggest things, again, for the sake of this competition, is interest in business and entrepreneurship. Again, doesn't mean that you are leaving academia, but we want people to participate in this event who are actively interested in learning more about what is going on, or how to get engaged with consultants or business leaders. And again, at least 12, but maybe 20, up to 20 teams will be selected. All right, I think this is my last slide before Justin's up. If you don't have any experience with consulting or doing a case, anything like that, you maybe haven't even heard of a case competition before, we have an event for you. Next week, again at CMU at Tepper, we're going to have a workshop hosted by 2 CMU students that actually had prior consulting experience. And they're going to do this workshop about how to really dissect and break down a case and your strategy then to go and solve it. I think this is going to be really valuable for a lot of individuals that are interested in this event. So I would highly, highly encourage you to go. We do have little information cards for afterwards, so come up and grab them as well. With that, I'll hand it off to Justin for the What Makes a Successful Team in Case Proposal section.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Hi. Happy Friday. Thank you for coming. So, Chris kind of introduced me as being a previous winner in the competition, and that's absolutely true. But I just want to give a little bit more background about me and who I am and where I come from. So I'm a graduate student here at Pitt in the School of Medicine in the microbiology program, which you think has absolutely nothing to do with business, and it's kind of true. When I started here, I had absolutely zero business experience whatsoever, but I got involved in Rubric solutions, which allowed me to sort of learn some of those more core competencies about how to, conduct yourself in that kind of setting. And so I was Chief Marketing Officer for Rubric Solutions for 2 years. I, had a lot of experience with the previous iteration of this case competition, the Pitt Health Innovation Case Competition. So for the 2016 competition, I served on the case creation committee, so I helped to write the case. I served on the team selection committee, so I evaluated the resumes that came in and helped to choose what teams participated in that event. And I also did a lot of the marketing for that event. I did a lot of the marketing for the 2017 event, which I also then competed in at the same time, and I ended up being on the winning team. So that was a really fun experience. So I think I'm pretty qualified to talk about what makes a successful team and what makes a successful case proposal. So as opposed to next week's event, I'm not going to go into the details about how to break down a case as so much as I'm going to talk about what I think set our team apart, made us stand out, and make our presentation, as successful as it was. So this is just a picture of myself and my fellow team members. We called ourselves Team DNA, which stood for Delivering New Answers, since that year's competition was about CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing technology. And so I think in terms of forming a team, a really important thing, and Chris talked about some of the criteria for which teams will be evaluated, is trying to unify your diverse backgrounds. So, I mean, James, Joe, and DP here came from the School of Bioengineering. I come from the School of Medicine. Sam came from Temper School of Business over at CMU. So, I mean, you have some Pitt representation, some CMU representation there, and multiple different scientific disciplines that I thought was, really was a strength in terms of us working together. You want to be able to also leverage your expertise. So all of us are coming from different backgrounds, but we're all good at different things. So me, being the microbiologist here, I was probably the only person on the team who actually had used the genome editing technology in my work. So I knew a lot about that side of it. I knew a lot about the diseases that the company we were evaluating was trying to treat. Whereas, James, Joe, and DP, had experience from Fork River, from Cybello, from working in other entrepreneurial circles here in Pittsburgh about, how to solve a case, how to work in a business setting, and Sam being our sort of business maven here and having an accounting background was really important for some of the financial questions that we ended up being asked. And of course, another really important thing is you just have to make it fun for each other. I mean, it's going to be a grueling week. It's a lot of work that you have to get done, but if you're comfortable working with each other, are able to, have fun in spite of all the work that you're doing and show that you're enjoying yourself when you're giving your presentation, I think it makes a big difference in terms of, looking successful and showing that you really know what you're talking about. So another thing that I think was really important in terms of team organization is both in industry and also in academic settings. In a lot of cases, when you're trying to work on a problem, you'll have like a project manager or a PI in a lot of cases, and then multiple different workers working under them trying to work on different pieces and parts of one big question. But in a case competition like this, a hierarchy like this doesn't really work so well, because essentially all of the teammates are on a level playing field. So if if everybody's trying to be the manager, you get too many cooks in the kitchen and nothing really gets done if everybody thinks it's my way or the highway. So what's really important in a competition like this is that you all end up working together on the case. Everybody is working on a level playing field. Everybody has strengths that they can bring to the table and work on, whichever section they feel the most comfortable with in terms of the case problem. And when everybody comes together like this, you end up getting a successful situation. Another really important thing for your team success is to communicate with each other. And so whether or not you're doing this over text messages, whether or not you're emailing each other in a big email chain, you're using Google Chat, you're using Google Docs, you're using Google Sheets, you're using Skype, you're using Slack. Whichever method works for you or whichever methods work for you, go ahead and use them. In our team, we were using email chains, we were using Google Docs, and we also had a Slack channel going in order to share as much information and resources as possible when we weren't able to meet all together throughout that week. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about kind of like making a successful team structure. The rest of what I'm going to talk about is why I think our case proposal was as successful as it was and why I think we stood out and ended up winning the competition. So, in terms of actually giving the presentation, I think it's really important to sort of play the parts. And so I'm going to be showing slides here from our actual presentation on that day. And on our title slide here, we had given ourselves a company name, Team DNA. We showed all of our headshots, and we also gave each other titles as if we actually worked at this company. We came into this looking as if we were the experts, as if we were the professionals. And that's a really important thing, because even though this is a judging panel made up of industry professionals, maybe some professors, maybe even alumni, as it was in the past, in that moment, they're the board of the company that you're pitching to, and you're the consultants that they hired to solve this problem. So you need to act like you're the experts here, because you're the ones who did all the work. And I think attitude really goes a long way in selling, your ideas. And so that's an important thing to do right off the bat. Another really important thing to do first on is to revisit the objectives of the actual competition. So in our year, this is exactly what we were tasked to do. We had to review the genome editing landscape. We had to analyze this company's pipeline. We had to prioritize different parts of their pipeline.
for either licensing or in-house development, and then recommend sort of future directions for them. So it's important for yourself and for the judges evaluating you to know exactly what tasks you were supposed to by going through exactly what was in the case prompt. Another really important thing to do at the beginning is to sort of lead with your recommendations. This is something you see a lot in consulting, but you don't necessarily see in academia. In academia, you normally have all of your evidence leading to a conclusion at the end, but in more of a business type framework, you often end up leading with your recommendations and leading with your conclusions, and then going into the details after that then supports your recommendations. Another real reason why this is important, especially in a competition format, is if you run out of time, you at least set your conclusions at the very beginning. So if you don't get to the end of the presentation, you at least have, sort of the meat of your material right up front. There was a team in the 2016 competition who did not do this, left all of the conclusions to the end, and severely ran out of time. They were probably one of the best presentations in that year if they were actually able to finish it, but they didn't, so they ended up losing, which is really shameful. So, I would say definitely try to lead with something like this so that timing doesn't become an issue for you, no matter what happens. Another really, important thing is to try to simplify your answers as much as possible and sort of streamline the information that you're trying to present. And so this is important, it's important for science, it's important for business, it's important across the board in sort of any presentation you're giving. And this is something even my PI says all the time, that for every slide you give, there should really only be one main point that slide is trying to make. So when you try to put a million different things on a slide, it gets really confusing. And so, this is one case where we as a team tried to make things as clear-cut as possible. We used color coding in terms of different things that we were going to talk about. So we color-coded, long-term goals, short-term goals, and, some of their in-house kinds of things. We used these different little icons to talk about the different disorders that this company was trying to treat with their technology, in order to sort of make a visual connection to say, this is the main part of the body that this disease is, targeting. And so every time these different things came up in the presentation, we used these same colors, we used these same symbols in order to, make it, appear again in the judge's mind exactly what we were talking about, to try to make the information as digestible as possible. Because you're trying to throw a lot of these people in 15 minutes, which is a short amount of time. Another thing I wanted to emphasize is the fact that you can actually use animations in a way that is informative, in a way that's not distracting, in a way that actually helps illustrate your point. So if you get a lot of academic presentations, people are very, very, very afraid using any sort of animations in their talks. And it's not something that's forbidden, it's actually something that can be really useful. So this is just one slide that we had used in our competition that I actually think was really important in sort of getting our point across and showing a little bit of wow factor to the judges. And so this is one of the parts where we were tasked with doing some market research and some market sizing for these different diseases within the pipeline of the company. And so this is basically a first dimensional kind of graph showing where these different diseases fall in terms of the number of people they affect on one single line. But then what we did with this is then we showed this in a two-dimensional sphere, where on one axis we're showing how many people these diseases affect, but on the second axis we're showing how close it is to getting these technologies to market. And in addition to that, we then added a third dimension where we added color into this, showing the potential for the improvement of the quality of life after using this technology to treat these different diseases, and sort of helping to further prioritize which diseases in these pipeline are affecting the most number of people, are closest to market, and will show the greatest quality of life improvement to make our recommendation. So this is a really fun way of using our animations and our color coding to actually make our point stronger and not distract by using some bells and whistles. Another thing that's important to do in terms of making your presentation strong is to try to visually represent your numbers as much as possible. So when you're throwing out facts and figures, you're throwing out millions of dollars, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, those are really abstract concepts, and it's hard for people to comprehend exactly what that means. So as much as you can graphically represent your numbers, whether it be through a
line graph, a bar chart, a pie chart, any sort of visual representation of a financial is going to make it more, outstanding than just saying a number or just putting, dollar sign, whatever, next to it. So this is one case where we were basically showing that by licensing you get, huge short-term revenue, sort of that middle peak there, but you actually have the potential for, sustained revenue at a lower level, going outwards. And so this made a really strong visual representation of the point we were trying to make here. Once you get to the end of your presentation, of course, it's again then important to review your recommendations. So at the beginning, you outline exactly what those recommendations were. Then you show the evidence for why they should be that way. In conclusion, you then review exactly why you think that's the best strategy for the company to move forward. And that's exactly what we tried to do here on our final slide of the competition. So lastly, I'm just going to give a couple other little tips and tricks that I think are successful, or will make you successful in the competition. Number one, absolutely number one, is practice your timing. Get together with your group that night before the competition and make sure your timing is solid. You only get 15 minutes. They're very strict about that. You can't run over, so make sure your timing is solid. And actually give yourself a little bit of leeway in case anything goes over or in case you end up adding anything else in that revision process that comes a little bit later. 2, absolutely stay on topic. So you get this case, you get exactly what your objectives are. It's best to stick to that. I've watched other teams on that day get way too bogged down in the scientific details, in the technical details, and they weren't really spending nearly as much time talking about the actual objectives of the case as they should have been. So as much as you can, since you only have a short window of time, stay exactly on those objectives every single minute that you get and make every minute that you have count. A third thing is to know your audience. So basically, what the case sort of presupposes is that you're pitching to the board of directors of a specific company that has asked you to come on and consult for them. So it's good to act like that. You need to act like the people that you're pitching to are familiar with the general details of the case, and the judges will be briefed on what the case is. You can use business terminology at these people. You can talk about an ROI or a CAGR, and they will understand what you mean. You don't have to spell everything out. So just in lieu of the time, keep also in mind who it is you're talking to, because they will be able to, understand what you're trying to say, and that you want to direct it in such a way that, they're going to be able to get it. Another thing is to be flexible, and again, this comes back to timing. So whether or not you get interrupted with a question, whether or not somebody in your team takes way more time than you thought they were going to, whether or not there's some kind of disaster, be flexible in your presentation, be flexible in your approach, and especially knowing that you're probably going to have to revise your content a little bit in between the first pitch and the second pitch. Be prepared to, maybe part with some things or to change your ideas or to change your recommendations, even on the day of competition. My last recommendation here is to include backup slides at the end of your presentation. So while you may have one main slide deck and you may have 15 minutes to talk about it, you are also allowed to include other things, past your conclusion slide, that in case it comes up in a Q&A round, you're able to go to a slide and show that information really easily. So it's always good to have stuff as backup. And also, with that revision round, while it may not have made it into the first cut, you may have a slide already on hand that you can then throw right in there for the revision based on what judges end up coming to you. So it's always good to have more than to have less. It's always good to come more prepared than less prepared. So basically those are all the recommendations I have about how to make your team stand out, how to make your presentation successful, and how to put a good team together. So I'm going to open up the floor to myself and to Chris about general questions about the competition and how to do well.
Is one of the requirements that above 2%?
So you can come up prior years, but for this year we actually decided that we're not making that a requirement. We recommend that probably 2 people or less present and just makes the flow a little more streamlined. I'm not sure how many of that was for you.
Everybody talks it now.
Everybody spoke honors. So that's also very effective, but again, you have to practice very, very well to be able to nail that, the timing of transitions.
True. There were other teams where a single person presented their entire case. So yeah, there's no hard fast rules on that. So whatever you think works best for your team. Yeah.
So for the first round and the final round, are you basically giving the same pitch, just you're regressing forward?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like a surprise question.
There is no. It's not a surprise question. There's not a bonus round. There's not a lightning round. Yeah, it's basically just trying to take what you already have, make it a little bit better, and to try to stand out in terms of that final four.
Yeah, and everybody's going to be revising. So whether or not you know yet if you're going to be in that final round, you're going to be revising your content and thinking critically about the comments you receive from judges. So I think that's an important reflective exercise on what did and didn't work for you.
Is this your, like, I know you took the health out of the ICC, so is this your not limited to health science?
Right, it's not necessarily, it's still health, you just decided to.
How much time did you spend like in the week? Like how much time does it take like for the team overall in the week that they're preparing their case? Is it like 20 hours per person of work, or how much did you guys do?
So that's a good question. So I'm trying to think of how exactly we did this. Basically, you get the case on a Friday, right? So you get the case on the Friday. I think we all met up that evening, to read the case, go over it, and then start coming up with our list of questions to sort of ask the case creation committee. So you get, generally a day to put those questions together, submit them, and then you'll get the questions back. I think also in that first evening, we kind of put together a skeleton kind of framework of who was going to start tackling what questions and where we could start doing a little bit of research. This isn't something that's supposed to take up all of your time. This isn't something that should completely ruin your week or prevent you from doing any other kind of work. So I would say each of us is maybe spending, a few hours on it each evening. That final evening was pretty intense. Like that final evening we spent probably, from say 5 o'clock all the way until the midnight deadline of submission, working on it and practicing our talk until maybe, 1 or 2 o'clock that morning. That's probably the most intense part is that final night, but during the week it's maybe a couple hours per night for each person.
How much work did you guys, so I mean, you met together initially, but how much work did you do independently of each other, or did you guys meet together like every day, every other day while you were doing it?
So we met on the day that the case came out. We met maybe one time in the middle, and we met that final night before putting it together. So I think 3 total meetings, but most of it we were able to, do ourselves. Right, yeah. And I mean, that's why we had remote communication. That's why we had email chains and stuff to keep in touch independently of one another.
Were you on one of the teams that did help each other beforehand, or did you organize
We did apply together, so we had all kind of known each other. So Joe, James, and GP had been friends for a long time from the School of Bioengineering. I knew James because he was dating one of my best friends from my program at the School of Medicine. Joe had known Sam through different sort of entrepreneurial circles here, so we had kind of known each other for a while to some degree, but had never worked, this closely together until that point. But yeah, we were familiar with each other before forming up.
Do you think that having 5 people on the team made it easier because you had more people to do all the work, or harder because you had more people to kind of like organize?
So that's a question like which came first, chicken or the egg kind of question.
Yes.
So I mean, it's even like trying to put this together, I was thinking about that question. Like, is it an advantage to have 5 people, or is it an advantage to have 3 people? Because if you have 3, you have fewer voices trying to, try to be heard, and fewer people trying to, be right, I guess, and try to take direction. Whereas if you have 5 people, you have 5 different voices all trying to say different things, and maybe you can get a little confidence trying to organize your information. But at the same time, the more people you have, the more you're able to divide up the work. So it really just depends on how well you can actually cooperate and work together. So in our case, I think 5 was an advantage because we were able to, work well together. We were friends with each other, and we were able to, divide the work and respect what each other was good at. There wasn't a lot of infighting saying, well, I know this section better than you do, so I should do this and you should do that. We all just kind of realized what our own strengths were, and were able to bring what we knew we were good at to the table. And so I think that helped us out.
In your registration slide, it says non-English graduates. You have your paper.
Yes, this is a change between the 2 different competitions.
Yeah. We made that as
But yeah, that shouldn't like scare you or anything. This is something you should be able to do without a business background, and that's really the emphasis, is that you, as a PhD student, as a postdoc, are capable of solving these types of problems because you solve problems every day of your life.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what we really want to highlight. In prior years when we had an MBA, you were allowed to have up to 1 MBA. It felt like you needed to have somebody with an MBA in order to be competitive. We don't want that to be the sense that people get. There are only a handful of graduate student-only case competitions in the country, and we're proud to be one of them because we do know just how much grad students can bring to the table. So again, I hope that's not intimidating. I think it's certainly something within the realm of Any questions on the logistics or how things will run on registration? Well, if that's it, you're free to go. If you want, we have the information cards up here. Happy to give those out. Thank you so much for coming and getting to hear a little bit about PICC. Again, really encourage you to go to the What is a Case workshop this week. Thank you so much.